All right, welcome to the Church Dropout podcast. My name is Alan. I'm joined by
Lisa.
Church Dropout is a podcast. We talk about issues, topics, and teachings related to faith, life, and culture in ways that are sometimes funny, sometimes serious, but always insightful. If you have not already, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment below. Keep the conversation moving forward. So we're just going to talk real quickly about something that was said. William Murphy, musician turned pastor. Not the first time I think we've mentioned something about William Murphy here on the channel. Definitely could say something all the time about William Murphy. But he said something I thought was pretty interesting that I think could spark a little bit of discussion, right? And so I don't know. I have some interesting thoughts, I think, on this. It could go multiple directions, but we'll listen to what he says and then we'll talk about it.
All right.
Okay, here we go.
And I gotta say this. I gotta say this to my staff. This 2025, we are going to track the tithe. We're not gonna take it out because you're grown, but we're gonna track the tithe, and we're gonna give you a chance to make. And I don't even know whether y'all tithe or not, but if you're gonna tithe in 2025, if you're gonna work at this church, somebody thank God for our tithing staff. You can't lead in this church if you don't tithe. Ooh-wee.
All right, so that was the short version of it. You gonna tithe. The staff
2025.
There you go. Well, the staff is gonna tithe in 2025. That's a campaign.
Oh yeah.
That's good there. You know, so yeah, William Murphy says the staff is going to tithe in 2025 or you will not be working for that church anymore. And so what's your thoughts, Lisa?
I feel like this has, I've heard this before. I mean, not with William Murphy, but I'm saying I've heard this in general.
Yeah.
You know, especially when it comes to the staff.
Yes.
You know.
Yes. Yeah.
I didn't get the part where he said, we're not going to track you because you grown.
Yeah. So
then how you going to know who's tithing in 2025?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. So, but it's not surprising. It's not surprising. You know, honestly, I think he's pushing more towards leaders right now, but everybody else coming later.
Yeah. Do you kind of think like this is in part maybe manipulation on the people itself? Like instead of telling the people to tithe, it's more like, no, I'm gonna hold the staff accountable, and if they tithe, you should be tithing. Yeah, you think it's kind of manipulation?
Oh yeah, he has. Yes, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah,
and you know, it was funny at the beginning. It was like clap, 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 clap.
Yeah, it was like
when he said because at first he didn't say the staff, so everybody was like. And then it was like, 2025, if you're going to be working at this church, you're going to be tithing. Everybody's like, amen.
Yeah. Hey, how bad is that if you're on staff and you're hearing that, and it's probably not the first time I don't know, right. maybe it is, but that's passive aggressive to the fullest.
I feel like if you have to say it, then if you have to say that as a pastor, then you're saying that that's not what was going on to begin with. And so I'm putting you on blast.
Right. Unless it's a play. Like you were saying, like unless they are tithing and he's just using the staff. Like, hey, y'all.
Right.
I'm gonna use y'all. You know what I mean? But I don't think so. I think. Well, it could be. Don't get me wrong. Like the play part, I think could be real. But I wouldn't put it past him if he didn't say that to the staff. Like, listen, people use the pool.
Who's paying the staff?
We'll see. Explain.
Well, I mean, the congregants.
Right.
Y'all know I love my word, the congregants.
Yeah, you love the congregants, girl.
The congregants their tithe is going towards the staff's pay, right?
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so so that brings up another thing, right? Because this is where I said, my take is a little bit interesting probably on this. Okay, first, let me say this. People use the pulpit. This is bullying, first of all. This is pulpit bullying. This is the person who has the microphone can say whatever he wants because he has the microphone and other people don't have an opportunity to speak or to say anything on that. Then it's intimidation and it's manipulation. And this is a sin against God, right? To do this to God's people. And I'm not even talking about sinning against the pulpit because the pulpit is, I don't even know, right? But it is, I would say it's striking the rock, sort of like what Moses, did with the children of Israel when he struck the rock with water for water to come out, and he did it out of anger, right? I think this is kind of, this is spiritual manipulation, bullying, and passive aggressive tactics, something that pastors should not do. The other part is now you brought something up, and this is where, again, I can nuance, like there's the system of church and then there's the church. Now, the system of church, the problem is that it's okay. It won't show up on the final recording.
Okay.
The problem is if you're taking a salary from the church, I just think you shouldn't have to be told, like, to give.
Right.
Because you're reaping from the body itself. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's a problem to me. If a person is not willing to sow back into a community that they're actually reaping from. And it's especially different when it comes to staff. Now, let me just say this too, because I don't think tithing is biblical. Okay, so let's just be clear. I think giving is biblical. Tithing, that's not a New Testament thing. Okay, that was given for the children of Israel, and it doesn't mean what we teach about today. That's just So I just wanted to say that. So when I'm talking about giving, like, yeah, you shouldn't have to tell someone who's benefiting from the community in a very particular way that they should give back to that community. Now, I know that they give back in certain forms of that, right? In terms of there's other services and things that they're given that they sow back into the community that's not financial, right? Which maybe should be taken into consideration too. But yeah, like if you're a part of a system that you are taking from, then yeah, you ought to give back. Now, you shouldn't be manipulated into doing that. That should be a natural reaction.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? In the same way, it should be the same for the body, right? That I would feel I would feel guilty if I'm taking things and not sowing anything back. Like, I just would feel like if I'm getting something from somebody or something,
right,
I'm just like, that took something to produce that for that to happen. I'm going to give back. You understand what I'm saying? Like, and so, yeah, I mean, if you work for a church, and I'm talking about for a gathering community, if you work full time for that, then if you don't want to give to that community, yeah, you shouldn't have a job there. That's right.
So I have a question. When pastors are on staff, if they're on staff, that means they're getting paid from the church?
Yeah.
So there's no people that are on staff, but that's not their, they're more volunteer.
There's some people there that are volunteering.
Like, would a Sunday school teacher be considered staff?
That's a great question.
Or a leader? Because what he's talking about are, if you're going to lead here at this church.
See, now listen, the expectation in most churches, and I would probably say it's the same for I think what he mentioned is staff. And I think what he's talking about is individuals that are actually receiving compensation from the church to do whatever it is that they're doing. So if he has Sunday school teachers who are on staff, then yeah, that would consist of that. I think he's talking about those who are paid, because if you listen to the whole thing, he started talking about when he was hired by a church. and they were giving him $31. This was back in the day. His salary was like, he was getting $31 a week or something. And when he got his check, he was getting $35 a week or something. When he got his check, it was $31. They had deducted the tithes out of his check for him. Okay. Right. And so I say that to say, like, he's talking about people who are getting compensation from the church.
Okay.
But, you bring up something else, though, like, just in terms of, like, it's interesting how we pay certain people to do certain things based on the level of importance to the community. Right? Like, we don't pay Sunday school teachers.
Right.
But we pay musicians. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, wait a minute, they're teaching the word of God. They don't get paid, though. We would never give a salary to a Sunday school teacher. You know what I mean? But we give a salary to a musician, right? Because that music is important.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? But anyway, but yeah, so
because I haven't seen the whole thing. So he is talking about people on staff.
People who are getting compensated financially from the church.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. And so yeah, I mean, if you work for a church, if you are receiving a salary from the church and then you don't want to give back to that church, then you shouldn't be on staff. Like, I don't see what the problem is with that. You should be fired. Like, it doesn't make any sense. You see what I'm saying? Like, now I'm not talking about I'm not talking about, like, if you can't get, like, you know what I'm saying? Like again, because this isn't a tithing system, but but let's say somebody has fallen on hard times or something like that. And I'm not talking about special circumstances. Like, I'm like, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not talking about, somebody who's going through something. I'm talking about somebody who's able to participate that way and they refuse to, they're not doing it. I would feel uncomfortable. I feel guilty working for a community, taking money from the body and not doing what everybody else is doing, not sacrificing the way everybody else is sacrificing.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Like,
And that makes sense what you're saying. I agree with that. So do you think that is odd that the pastor would put his leaders or his people on staff on blast like that, to where he needs to preach a message on them tithing? You know what I'm saying? Because, like, that means you're questioning your leadership.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You're you feel like they're not doing what they're supposed to do. So you have to tell them, I'm giving you till 2025 to start doing it. You know what I mean? Where, to me, I would think if this was a leadership type thing or on staff type thing, this would be brought up in the staff meeting on Friday.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's what
you know what I mean? Instead of in front of the whole congregation.
Right.
And you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like maybe, unless it's a play, like either hey, I'm just using all as an example, and he's trying to really talk to the congregation by using the staff, or he's passive aggressively rebuking the staff with the body. You know what I mean? And I wouldn't put it past either one. But here's another aspect that we don't even see. Well, I don't say we don't even see. That's interesting too. Like, sometimes when we call these things out, if you got people who are on staff and they're not giving, and it's not because of some circumstance that they're not giving back to the community that they're reaping from, that's a sign of your leadership too.
Right.
Like that speaks a lot about you as a leader, right? One, who you hired, you know what I mean? But two, your leadership. Now I'm not talking about, like you should be like, he's, like they checking, or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, you're calling yourself out too, to a large degree. You're calling your own leadership out, at that point. You know what I'm saying? Like, but yeah, I don't know. It's really interesting, like, again, if if the environment was being ran the way it should be ran as a local gathering community that was not being ran like a business and or with the this is kind of, he's definitely in the prosperity gospel type community, because he also goes on to say, you sow bountifully, you reap bountifully, just all of this type stuff. Clearly this church has some issues in terms of its foundation. But all of this wouldn't exist again if we would return to the biblical perspective of what a community really is.
I agree.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When we look at Acts 2, we don't see anybody compelled, right, to give other than how the Spirit of God has worked in their life.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? And even with Ananias and Sapphira. Yeah. This is bad. And this is why my mind need to be redeemed, because I start thinking about Rick James' song, Fire and Desire.
I don't go any.
I don't know. Fire, baby. That'd be a good remake.
Okay.
For the church.
You don't even know what you was about to say.
I do. Okay. And so even in that specific instance, when they were standing before Peter and, he was like, listen, why did you lie about what you gave? Nobody told you to sell your home or to sell nobody even told you to do that. You know what I mean? So nobody was under a compulsion to give. You understand what I'm saying? And each one saw fit to sell their possessions and be able to meet the needs of the rest of the community. You know what I mean? So there wasn't somebody saying, you guys need to give. Now, there are instances in scripture where Paul tells the church I believe it's the church in Jerusalem. He goes like, you guys have an overabundance and you should be helping these other communities that don't. You should be giving to these communities, right? Because I want to say charity, but what is that? It starts with a G. I want to say it's not gracious, but generosity. But generosity is a gospel trait. Like you should be looking to be generous to your brothers and sisters. And so here you are with over an abundance. You should be, right? So the compelling there is those who are in need, right? Yeah. But we're never compelled to give under the authority of leadership for the furtherance of not the kingdom, but a building. Right. You know what I mean? It's crazy. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so, William Murphy, there's a lot that can be said about William Murphy, but I don't put it past him to make this kind of statement. And this is not a statement that's not uncommon. Yeah. When I was on staff at certain churches, we were required to give. But I say, if you sign up for that, right, and you are a part of that community, and it is against your convictions, it is your responsibility to walk away from that. Right. And I know people say, "Oh, well, they won't have a job," and that's not. Listen, you signed up for that. Right. Right. You know what I mean? Like you signed up for that. Now the problem that William Murphy is going to have is you start talking about your 501, C3. And you start talking about this other type stuff, you're forcing people to give and all of this type stuff. That's a problem, But anyway, don't go to a church where you're compelled to give by anything else other than the gospel. If you're being compelled to give by shame, by guilt, by false teaching, that is not the way God requires your gifts or wants your gifts. Right. Right. Yes. Right. Yes. And this whole idea of taking care of the temple, people were given to take care of the temple. This is not an equivalent. This is not a New Testament equivalent to what was going on in the temple system in the Old Testament, theocracy versus the New Covenant. So you were going to say something?
I was.
Uh-oh.
Why you say uh-oh?
You clearing your throat like what's the dude's name? Let me clear my throat.
Now, if you're gonna hold your staff accountable to tithing, are they able to hold you accountable as well to tithing?
I think you know the answer to that question.
Yeah, I know the answer, but are you, are they actually, are they able to do that? You know what I mean? William Murphy?
Yep.
Are they able to do that?
Good, Lisa. Yeah.
And if they are, you doing it. You know what I'm saying? I'm happy for you. You know what I mean? But I think the same thing that you're holding them to, they should be able to hold you to as well.
Absolutely. And I'll say this. In the communities that I was a part of that held that view, that wasn't a problem. It wasn't it was not preached that way. It wasn't talked about that way. The lead pastor of those communities had no issue in that area. Very transparent, very open.
Right.
Like that was not a problem.
Right.
So some people are under this, and it's not. These types of situations give faithful pastors, a hard time. Right.
Yes.
That doesn't mean that there's not error there. That doesn't mean that, some of those things are not right. But, again, no, he's not going to be under the same authority. And that's clear, right? Because if that was the case, he couldn't get up there and say what he said without there being repercussions if they can hold him accountable.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's why that's manipulation to a large degree, because, if they go back to him and they say, hey, listen, this made me feel a certain way, then he's going to say, oh, that's conviction. Maybe you're one of the ones that's not giving. So it's just manipulation, So that is it. Send your 10% donation. If you're going to listen to this channel in 2025, you're going to tithe. Well, thank you for tuning in to the Church Dropout podcast. Drop a comment below. We'd love to hear your comments. And like, share, and subscribe. We appreciate it. Talk to you soon. God bless.
Good night.